and welcome to Late Night Book Chat, live every Monday night, 9 p.m. Mountain Time, 11 p.m. Eastern. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I am one of your hosts, Patricia Meredith.
And I am Andrew Meredith. Yes. And I am the author of fantasy, and you are an author of
mystery. And together we are a married couple who are pursuing publishing our books on our own. We are indie publishers, and we are having a great time. We've been publishing for about 5 years, and we're so excited to be doing this.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Yeah.
So we wanted to do a pilot episode where we could just talk to each other.
Right. Interview each other.
Exactly. And introduce who we are, why we're doing, it's usually like 10 episodes before someone does a why are we in BookTube? Well, yeah. We're way past 10 episodes for the fact that we've done a lot.
Yes.
You've interviewed others extensively.
Yes.
I've been
Authors,
on panels.
Yeah.
Been interviewed. So it's not our first rodeo, but it's our first time doing a show like this.
Yes.
And this is not just a whim. We've got a huge lineup.
Yes.
Set up for the rest of the year.
I'm so excited. We have so many amazing guests that will be joining us throughout this year.
Authors, booktubers, bookstore owners,
yes.
Audiobook narrators.
Yes.
There was something else too.
Yes.
Editors,
just people, anybody who has anything to do with books. We've asked them to join us because we definitely found over the last year or so of really joining the BookTube community that our favorite part is talking to other people who love books and, talking about anything that has to do with books.
Yes.
And so we are so excited to be here tonight with you guys. And a quick hello to everybody in our live chat. You are our live studio audience tonight. So thank you for joining us, and welcome to anybody who is streaming us later in the week. Definitely feel free to do that. We know it's a Monday night. It's really late for a lot of people. We get that. We just felt like this was an open time in the BookTube community to fill a gap. And record some things. That way the rest of the week you have something to listen to and enjoy.
Yeah.
So,
It's going to be a fun show every week. It's very, as we told those who are coming on, this is like coming on to a Graham Norton show. This is going to be fun.
Yes.
Before we get to the fun, though, the only thing we wanted to point out, and you see at the top of what's already in the comments, we listed, if you have a question, we will address it at the end of the chat. That way, we're showing respect to whoever it is that we're interviewing, but we're starting the practice now. If you have a question, put it in there with an asterisk before the question. That way, we can find it better at the end, and we'll come back around and answer any pressing questions.
That'll be the last thing we do tonight. Yep. So feel free to be asking questions during live chat, but just know that we won't be getting to answer them until the very end.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Yeah. But we are going to start with something fun.
Yes. You've got it. I do.
Yes. Yes. We're going to start with a little icebreaker.
Yep.
We'll do this with all of our guests. We'll start with a bunch of random bookish questions. I've been scouring the internet and coming up with brainstorming ideas.
It's a long list.
I've got a lot of choices in here, you guys. Lots.
Yeah.
Like hundreds.
And and the reason we want to do this at the top two, one, it's an icebreaker, and two, by the time we get to the end, you're all going to be so tired that can't answer questions anymore. It's not like Hot Ones where you ask the hot questions at the end once you're on the bomb.
Yes.
But we're going to
ask him about that. We might add some hot sauce later.
I'll do hot
we'll
sauce.
See. We'll see. He would do hot sauce.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I could interview him, but I don't know that I could do all the hot sauce.
I won't do the bomb though.
Yes. So, all right. So I'm going to ask you a question first.
Okay.
All right. So we're going to start with, how long does it normally take you to finish a book? This could be writing or reading.
At the rate I've been going lately, like a year, but
to read a book. Yes.
No, I've read quite a few books this year.
Yeah.
Not as many as like the booktubers, but more than I have been reading over like the past decade.
Yeah.
So, at least it could take me a month easy to make it through a book because I get distracted or I'm writing, and so I just don't read.
Right.
But a month, 2 months. I was able to I was somehow able to get through, we were traveling, but I finished Janie Wirtz's first book over that trip, which was a miracle because that's a fat book.
Yes. But you loved it.
Absolutely.
You gobbled up every word.
And now second book is staring at me from my bedside table to read number 2.
Yes. So when you like a good book, right? It doesn't take as long.
No,
to get
it does
to the
not.
book.
It does not.
So
it's worth powering through.
Yeah.
All right. Powering through, meaning not being distracted. All right.
Yes.
You find out that your best friend hates the book that you like the most. Oh, this is a would you rather.
Yes.
Would you rather
find
out your best friend hates the book you like the most, or share your favorite book with your nemesis.
Or share your favorite book. So meaning like
you have to like actually have a conversation with and like sit down and have a full-on chat with
about
the person you loathe the most.
Or find out that someone doesn't like my favorite book.
Your best friend hates the book you love most.
Yeah. So my favorite book of all time is To Say Nothing of the Dog by Connie Willis. And you'll hear me say that all the time. That is by far my favorite book. And if you haven't ever read it, highly recommend it, obviously, because it's my favorite. I'll still talk to you if you don't like it. So I'd rather hear from my best friends that they don't like the book, because that leads to really interesting conversations. And then, maybe they'll say something and I'll go, oh, well, yeah, I hadn't thought about that. And then they'll tell me, well, I didn't really like it as much as XYZ. And then that leads me on a whole nother, then I'll find something new that maybe I'll end up choosing a new book, because like with trying food with our kids, we're always telling them, you have to try it, and you'll try it a couple times. You'll try it till you like it. And so sometimes you have to read books a couple times, and it has to hit you at the right time, and then you'll love it. So yeah, that would be my answer. All right. If you could protect any fictional character from dying, who would it be? No spoilers.
No, I won't pick anybody from
Well, it is okay. It's late night, so yeah, you can give away something. But maybe not too much.
So I get to save
a
one
fictional character from dying. Wash, yes. Okay.
Yeah.
He's not in a
Wash
book,
Coburn.
though.
He's a fictional character.
He's a fictional character. Okay. What's he from, Andrew?
From Firefly.
From Firefly.
But Serenity. So it's not a spoiler for Firefly. You can watch Firefly.
Yeah, but
I'll say
okay.
Wash Coburn.
It's old enough. It's okay.
That's right. Yeah.
It's okay.
You do know that King Hung dies at the end. Yes. All right. Oh, another would you rather.
Okay.
Would you rather be allowed to only read new books, or to never be allowed to read anything else than what you have already read before?
Already read before. I've definitely found in the last year, I love rereading books that I've read before that I know are good. Especially like if I try a bunch of new books and I end up unfortunately DNFing a lot of them, I then reach for something that I know I'm going to like. And it's usually a reread. Sometimes it's books by my favorite authors that I know are going to deliver. So like this last time I went through a long period of DNFs, and I turned to, of course, JCM Byrne and his Hybrid Helix and picked up his next book, and immediately, a fantastic read. And it got me over the reading slump and reminded me that there are good authors out there.
Yes.
So, writing good stories. So way to go, JCM.
That's right. One more each?
Yes. One more.
Okay.
Oh, me.
It's my turn.
It's your turn. Okay. What's a popular book that you think deserves the hype? That does deserve the hype.
A popular book that does deserve the hype.
Yeah.
Probably
something Sanderson.
No, I'm going to say Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell.
Oh, yes. We both love.
It's on my mind right now. I just started Piranesi, and I'm getting it from the library so I can finish it finally.
Yeah.
And absolutely. Yeah. Jonathan Strange.
Yeah. By Susanna Clarke.
Yes.
Amazing book. So if you love like epic fantasy and
Victoriana.
And Victoriana. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That's your... All right. Last question.
Watch, this is going to be another would you rather.
I know. I keep getting would you rather. That's okay.
Oh. Okay. This is one I had thought of for myself when I saw you put it on the list. If you could have any magical power, what would it be?
So flying. Because I miss whenever my kids come down, our kids come down and talk about, oh, I just had a flying dream. I'm like, oh, I miss those. Because for some reason as an adult, I don't know that I've had a flying dream since
high school
lately.
Yeah. Our daughter has them like every night.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I envy that. I want to be able to fly. And I always, I'm a huge fan of Peter Pan. I love any kind of story like that where they have flying abilities. So yeah, I wish I could fly. Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and ask you what would have been your answer since you said it.
It's tactile telekinesis.
Okay.
Specifically tactile telekinesis. So tactile telekinesis would be telekinesis where you must be touching the object. Superboy in the comics has it.
Okay.
And it allows you to fly because you just throw yourself. Okay. It allows you to pick anything up just by touching it. And it prevents you from accidentally just popping someone's head because you're angry.
Oh, okay.
And so having to actually touch them, then it becomes premeditated, and then it's really your fault. But if you just got mad at somebody like, and their head explodes,
road rage,
yeah. Telekinesis would be bad. But tactile telekinesis would work. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. That's true.
So tactile telekinesis is my pick of always.
I love how you used a big word there. Yes. I'm like flying.
Well, it's also called tactile teak if you want to shorten it up, but whatever.
Okay, sure.
Who's parsing?
Right. So there you go. There's a little bit about us. Well, that'll be our icebreaker every time we have a guest. So be prepared. We have a ton of different questions that we'll go through before we hit any repeats. So we're really excited about that part. It'll be fun. So
next we wanted to just talk about who we are, what we have been through, what our background is. We said that we're writers, but what does that even mean if you've never seen or heard of us before? Who are we? Mm-hmm. So Patricia, who are you? Who am I?
Scrubs, by the way. So Andrew and I have been married for 16 years. Oh, never mind. We'll get back to that.
15 plus.
15 plus. Yeah.
Who's counting?
Who's counting? So that means we've known each other for 16 or 17 years. And so one of the things that we love to do is banter with quotes, and we have we bonded over geek background and
reading. I read to you when we were dating. I read David Eddings to you.
On our honeymoon, we drove cross country, and he read aloud Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy with all the voices. So, it was all the way back. It was destined then for him to become an audiobook narrator.
Yep.
So about 5 years ago, we started publishing. So I have 5 books out.
And I have 5 books out
above me. Yeah. Not that we're competing at all, but
which we're not. We're neck and neck though. We're neck and neck.
Are. Somehow we've managed to keep it even. I think this year it might actually go off a little more. But we'll talk about more about that later. So I have 3 books in my first series, which is the Spokane Clock Tower Mysteries, which is set in 1901. They are historical mysteries because they feature, although the main characters are made up, everybody else, the cameos, the events that happened, the locations that they go to all actually took place in 1901 Spokane. I have the actual newspapers that I do all my research with, and it's so much fun. And I love diving into the history of those. And those focus on a clockmaker. There's twin detectives. There's a lot of people with different, you're never really sure if someone is who they say they are. So I'll leave it at that. Lots of quirky characters. That's kind of my thing, is quirky characters, real things, ensemble cast, motley crew, as Miss Tori Tekken would say. So I love that sort of thing. So then my 4th book is over here. Anna Catherine Green is the first book in a new series that features the mother of detective fiction, Anna Catherine Green. And you may have never heard of her, but she is the woman behind the mystery genre.
Real person. It really existed.
This is a real person who really existed, who I stumbled across her in Agatha Christie's autobiography. And everyone's heard of Agatha Christie. Everyone's heard of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. And yet Anna Catherine Green published the first American detective mystery and blew up. She was an overnight bestseller. She's the Agatha Christie of her day. And this was 9 years before Sir Arthur Conan Doyle published his first Sherlock mystery. And yet you've never heard of her. So
her detective had deductive reasoning.
Her detective greatly influenced
had rheumatoid, like another detective who showed up later.
That's an episode in itself. Yes. So Anna Catherine Green, she's my passion project. If you're here on my channel, obviously, you can find all sorts of videos about the history behind that book. That is the first book in a series. That one will be longer between books because it just takes a lot of research because I really want to nail down all my facts correctly.
That's why you dress in 1901 as well.
But that's why, this is kind of turn of the century, 1901. I love, this is research, right? So so I love it. But Anna Catherine Green is actually 1878 New York City. And then my newest one is the Christmas one, Mr. Sam Shovel. And he is a talking snowman who comes to life at the North Pole every Christmas. And he has 12 days of Christmas to solve the mystery. And this year, Mr. O. Tannenbaum was found murdered at the North Pole. And O. Tannenbaum comes from the song O Tannenbaum, which is O Christmas Tree in the original German. And so it's filled with Christmas references. It is all tongue-in-cheek references to all of your favorite movies, anything that you watch over Christmas or listen to over Christmas or eat over Christmas. It's all in there. And a lot of introduction to some new things that maybe you've never heard of, like Yule Lads and
Brazilian Christmas.
Brazilian Christmas. Yeah, I've got
Zealand.
Santa Clauses from all over the place. It was a lot of fun and covering a lot of that and incorporating that into our last.
Well, my favorite part of that is the fact that there's franchisee. That's all the Santas are franchisees.
Yes. Yeah.
Who come to the North Pole to meet right before Christmas or during Christmas because they all have different franchises in different countries, so they can.
Right. So that's how I set up my Santa system. So more about that also here on my website, on my YouTube channel. And that is the first book in a cozy mystery series. And I am working on the sequel right now that'll come out this Christmas. Yeah. So those are my 5 books. What have you written, Andrew?
Well, I write epic fantasy, and we both started publishing 5 years ago. We've been writing before that, and we basically
both looked at each other and said, all right, if we're going to do this thing, we're going to do this thing.
We had both pursued trad from after we started writing again in 2017. We had written off and on and had life got in the way. We started writing in 2017 and pursued publication. You had an agent for a while and then the world shut down. Weird. And we had been eyeing indie publishing the whole time as a possibility. You had experience as an editor, and we were like, it's just so much work. We knew how much work would have to go into it. We'd been to cons and seen authors who don't ever hire editors and just hope it works. And that was the start of a huge, not a debate. We both agree.
But everything turned around.
Everything turned around over the pandemic when
suddenly indie publishing. I mean, right now, indie publishing is giving trad a run for its money.
Right. It exploded because everybody said, I don't want to buy from, even for just 6 months, not buy from the big stores. So they all sought indie out, and suddenly a whole bunch of artists were looking for work. And we're helping indies get really good covers. So everything just grew suddenly in 2020. And we said, well, we got time now. Yeah. So we spent a year and a half prepping ourselves before we launched all of our books. And the first book I published was Thrice, right here. Yep. And its sequel, Fourscored, came later. But Thrice is a Slavic fantasy. Slavic-inspired fantasy, a man and boy on the road, like a lone wolf and cub story. Little boy has way too much magic and people want him. And his father says, let's just go and ask them really nicely to leave us alone. And hijinks ensue. And then the sequel takes place 1 year later. So obviously things probably go well. So if you don't like child endangerment, you don't have to worry about.
Yes. I don't like child endangerment. I have 2 kids and I can't handle it. So
as long as I make promises that I won't, kill the kid.
That's all I can promise, but I do promise that the kid will be okay.
Yeah. So that's Needle and Leaf. And then my big epic fantasy series is over here. Right here. Deathless Beast, Bone Shroud, and Gloves of Eons are the first 3 books in the Collation Saga. It's my big sprawling epic fantasy, no end in sight kind of thing. I'm still keeping my stories in groups of about 4 books, so you won't be completely or logger jammed with how long it is. Yeah. But it will be long, and just as a whole. And it's paladins, paladames, religious themes and intrigue and orders collapsing and dark gods meddling, a man wearing a bone cloak made from his victim's bones that just happens to be invisible to the gods. Big man bat creature, all the good stuff. So if you and all the readers will say I slow burn, but my pacing is never dead. But I like a pace. I like a clip. That's what we were talking about earlier today.
Yeah, it's.
I write in a. I want an even story that will take you along the journey without ever feeling like when's the next rest stop finally going to show up.
But I promise it's worth the wait.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because and it doesn't feel like a wait. It feels like you're slowly getting to know these characters, and it's just lots of beautiful world building, and without you feeling like you're being hit over the head with a lot of world building. So yeah.
And we have new books coming out, so that's what we're heading towards telling you about.
Yes, we're going to talk about our secret projects, because apparently that's the word now, right? I have a secret project.
And we do.
Yes. And we do. We each have a secret project that we've been working on for the last 3 months. We've been kind of quiet since Christmas. Christmas took a lot out of us with pitching this book, doing a lot with that book.
But we learned a lot, too.
We learned a lot.
Doing a whole bunch of book shows. not online book shows, but selling books in person
at Christmas
that made
time.
us kind of reassess where we needed to go with our writing careers.
Right. And one of the discoveries was we really liked cozy. So this book is a cozy. My others are all historical mysteries.
My books have been described as cozy with a caveat where
we'll get into that.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll come back to that. But yeah, that's what we want to talk about is where we're headed this year with our new books. So so I guess, why don't you go ahead and dive in and tell us a little bit more about what you've been working on, or do you want to start with cozy, like describing cozy?
No, we'll start with what
what you're working on. Okay. All right. So Andrew, what have you been working on for the past 3 months? Not even 3 months.
I tripped and fell and accidentally wrote a book.
Yes, you did. Oh my gosh.
And not in the I didn't write 4 books. I'm not going to pull out 4 manuscripts and show you all 4. It's a short, fast, cozy book that I've been thinking about writing a cozy for 2.5 years now.
Yeah.
Nothing really ever panned out. And then I had an idea January 15th, I think. January 15th. Because then January 21st, it was like Sunday afternoon and I was bored and I was like, I guess I could just write a chapter. And then I tripped and fell, and a month later I had a 50,000 word manuscript done. And it was my first discovery write, which Tori will constantly point out, haha, look at you, you did it. And I'm going to do the same thing when she actually outlines a book. But I just accidentally wrote 50,000 words. Yeah. So shorter than what I've written before. Thrice is 70,000 words. So I'm not adverse to writing a little bit shorter. Collation is longer, but this was something totally different than what I'd ever written. And the title of the book is Quaint Creatures, Magical and Mundane. And it is about a giant and his elf wife. They own a veterinary clinic and monster pet shop. He's a veterinarian, retired dungeon inspector. So this is if all creatures great and small met onward.
Yes. Yeah.
In a people have asked that have mentioned it too. Is this a lit RPG? Yeah. And it's not. There's no stats, but it's so tongue-in-cheek in the references to D&D and all without ever crossing trademark problems. Right. And so tons of reference in the way that she did lots of references with her Christmas book. Only this is all D&D, all D&D stuff. Right. So.
Yeah, I compare it a lot to lately. I've been really into Terry Pratchett. I've been reading a lot of his Discworld series because somehow I missed the boat on those. And I'm so sorry I did, because now I'm just gobbling them up. I absolutely love them. And I started reading him, and as Andrew was working on this book. And so as soon as I read his first draft, it was just like, oh my gosh, this is so Terry Pratchett. So it's satirical and commentary.
There's a little bit of social commentary.
Yes.
So it's my Discworld.
It is because it's light and fun and, nothing world ending. It's very small stakes.
Incredibly standalone.
Yes. Yeah. So, but with amazing, fun characters. I mean, and almost recognizable, where you're like, oh, that reminds me of something from something I've read.
Yet you don't need to know D&D.
Yes.
If you are not an RPG player, you just like fantasy, it's going to be just fine. Yeah. And it's it's a clean, cozy fantasy. And I read it. I wrote it too, so I could have a book I could actually let my kids read as well.
Right. Yeah.
And not as a middle reader or a kid's book, but it's written in that. I mean, think back to the 80s, right, where we all read the same books. There was no YA until Harry Potter.
Was a YA book,
right?
And it was written for kids.
Parents read a book, and you handed it to your kid and said, "You're reading it now." And that's what I want, is to be able to hand a book to a parent and child at a show and say, you may both read this and you'll both enjoy it and talk about it.
Exactly. Which is what I was able to do with my Christmas book. And that's what we found was we really enjoyed that, because as parents of young kids, they're both, they're 8 and 10 right now. And so we're just very careful about what they read. And it's, so it was nice to finally
But they're not ready for our books yet.
Right. They can't read our books yet. But this one we read aloud and
your
with all the voices and my Christmas book.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. But it was sort of something amazing. Yeah. So Quaint Creatures, tell us a little bit more about, are there aspects of you in the novel, right? How does it reflect you as a person?
So that's something you and I have both worked on over the course of years, is how do you separate yourself from your characters and how do you meld them?
Without Gary suing,
without Gary suing, right?
and, or even fan fictioning it, right? How do you, because it's going to happen when you write, parts of yourself are going to appear in how you're writing, and
they will, they just will.
Yeah.
And an author that tells you otherwise is lying to themselves.
Yeah.
I did it in the past, absolutely. So that's one of the reasons we didn't really start writing until 2017, but we had been writing, because I wrote an absolute garbage book back in 2010 that I thought was just the bee's knees, and it was not. The main character was a 100% Gary Sue of me, and I had to completely tear that story apart to become the collation saga that it is today, which is not even the same story. There's just a couple of characters left over and a world that I had already built.
Right.
So,
but in Quaint Creatures,
I poured quite a bit of both of us, I think, into this one.
Yeah.
Not
necessarily in the characters, but in some of
the relationships they have,
Yeah.
And the what ifs, the what ifs of, like, we were watching All Creatures, like, I like that character, and then sometimes you put a bit of yourself into a character, at least to get it started, in the same way that you would cast an actor and say, well, I put a lot of Matt Damon into this book. You didn't really. You started with Matt Damon thinking in your head, it's going to be this version of Matt Damon from this movie, and then it has somewhere to grow and go from there. So I do that a lot. I'll often cast, because this was all fantasy peoples.
Yes.
I was able to kind of play around with a lot of that instead, or and then I also love creating limitations for myself. So, like, in this case, in this world, there's no more humans. All the humans are dead because they kept pursuing immortality too much. They ended up killing themselves off and becoming liches, ghosts. And then 200 years ago, they had the last zombie uprising. Not uprising. They just accidentally turned all of them. So now all of the humans that are left are just like dock workers who lumber around. They're still sentient. So they aren't brain eating zombies. They're just dead.
Yeah,
so there's no humans, and all of these other fantasy creatures, from sentient red pandas to elves and giants. And
can you talk a little bit more about my favorite character, Synachron?
Yeah, Synachron is a lich. He shows up really early, and he's one of the main character Rick's best friends. He taught him undeath animal health in college. And he comes and asks him to come inspect his dungeon for him, because dungeons are really important. After all, it's what brings in money for the economy for the local cities. So cities love having dungeons all around. And so there's a lot of, what does a dungeon economy look like from the point of view of the city that needs those taxes, needs those heroes coming in and spending a whole lot of money, even if they're, kicking over pots and breaking chests. And
so you get to see heroes, that. There's all these adventures coming in, they're going through the different levels, and you get to see the different levels. And
Synachron has got this tower, and he's trying to provide a place where people can work, and he tries to keep at least a 50% undead ratio of workers, because it's important to him. And he wants he hasn't practiced evil magic in 200 years. He's working on trying to make him get himself back on the straight and narrow. And he's a hoot.
Yeah. So, but there's lots of fun little references. Like, for example, your two main characters are Rick and Evelyn. Where did that come from?
Accident. I didn't realize till halfway through.
It wasn't on purpose.
It wasn't until halfway through me reading it to you I realized I had named them Rick and Evie. From the Mummy. Rick and Evie and they're best friends of Mummy. So it's like, okay, that was 100% Freudian slip there.
We love the Mummy. So the Mummy franchise. So okay, I didn't know that.
No, it was an accident. No, it was Rick because Casablanca.
Yes.
And Eve and Evelyn just happened. Oh, by the way, it's Rick and Evie. So, okay, there we go. That's fine with me.
Yeah.
A happy coincidence.
Well.
Yeah.
Let's see. You've got some chocolate making in there. You've got baking. Lots of
of food references.
Yes.
I'm going to have to do some videos.
Andrew Wizard. Yeah. They're in there. I promise. You'll have your mouth watering.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's Quaint Creatures. Yeah. You have been working on another cozy.
I also have been working on another cozy in a new series. This is actually a book that technically I wrote the first draft of 4 years ago, before we
2019.
Yeah. Anyway, so I came back to it, because it was one I was holding off on, because I just wanted to have a little bit more behind me before I published this one. It is so much fun. It is, so it's Murder, She Wrote meets Golden Girls. So the series, this is the first book in the series, and it's called Slings and Sparrows. And it follows two sisters named Goose and Penny, who are both over 60 and retired. And they live on their land. It's about 67 acres in Pennsylvania. And each of them has a bird associated with them. So Goose, of course, she's kind of a mother goose. She's the older sister. And so she kind of mothers her little sister a little bit. And that's why she goes by Goose. And then she has pet geese who are named Tommy and Tuppence. And if you're an Agatha Christie fan, you'll know to whom I am referencing. And if not, you should look it up and find it out. So lots of literary references. Of course, that's the other thing that I'm really known for, quirky characters and literary references. Lots of fun. And so Goose's little sister is Penny, and Penny suffers from anxiety. But because this book is set in the 90s, and let me confirm, it is the 1990s, because I realized that 1990s fiction is being considered historical fiction now. And that just cracked me up because I'm a 90s kid. And so I thought, I am definitely moving this book. Originally it was modern day, and I was like, I am moving this book to the 90s because it just screams 90s. So I've had so much fun looking up the history of the 90s and incorporating that into the book. So things like Ask Jeeves just came out. And so they talk about dial-up on the internet and things like that. Really, really fun. So anyway, so Penny is the younger sister, and she suffers from anxiety. And so she carries around with her, and this is a real thing, a comfort chicken. So she has a silver-laced cochin, which is the kind of
if you don't know what that is, look it up. It's a beautiful chicken.
It's a beautiful chicken, the fluffiest, cutest chicken ever.
We had one on the farm.
We had who then had chicks, and so then oh my gosh, they're adorable. Henny is the name that she always gives to her comfort chicken, and so together they are Henny Penny, and they are always looking for the next bit of sky that is falling. And so those two started it off, and then they start inviting friends to come live and rent and build houses on their land in order to pay the taxes and everything, because the recession had just happened in 80, I think it's like 86 is when it happened, 89.
No, 81.
80.
Still.
Yeah,
but
anyway.
That was when their father died.
Yeah. That's right. That's when their father died. Yeah. And so that's, anyway, the whole backstory. So, yes,
we're very involved in each other's books when we write them.
Yes, we are. And so they've got friends who are living with them now. And so we've got like Beatrice and her peacocks. So she's a bit of an ostentatious person. She is a costume designer. And then we've got Sable, who may or may not have invented the goth movement, and has a pet raven who is always quoting Edgar Allan Poe. And she's very into Gothic literature. And so lots of literary talks and just really fun things. And it all comes together. And there is a murder, but it's not what you think it is. It's very cozy, very light, very just very fun. I had so much fun with these characters, and I'm so excited. This is the first book in a series that I'll get to come back to them repeatedly and introduce more of their backstories and uncover all of that as we go. So,
and it's in Pennsylvania.
It's in Pennsylvania.
Only in Pennsylvania.
So, okay. So technically, so I based the city that they live in. I made up a city. It's called Paca Springs, but it is greatly inspired by a real city called Hancock, Maryland. So if you look up that city, you will see that it is right in Maryland's waistline, which is the 1.5 mile strip that is Pennsylvania, Maryland, West Virginia. And then just, what did we decide? Like 10 miles away is Virginia also.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a really intriguing area of the U.S. And I was like, I have to put a murder mystery there, or a series of mysteries there, because there's 3 state lines that you can play with, right? And so they consider themselves Pennsylvanians. My dad is Pennsylvanian. And then my sister-in-law is, her whole family is from Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. And so she and I have had so much fun coming up with, lingo to make sure that it's very clear that they are from more the Pittsburgh area influence and the Appalachian mountains and that whole influence, rather than Philadelphia, because there is a difference.
Yes.
So they're all from PA, which is what you call Pennsylvania. If you're from Pennsylvania, and it's the 67 acres is because my grandparents own 67 acres in Pennsylvania, and we love going there. It's so refreshing and encouraging to be there. And so there's lots of myself in this story. I love comparing the women with their birds. That really came from, I was watching 101 Dalmatians with my kids, and I've always loved that scene where Pongo is looking out the window and he sees a series of people with their pets, right? People with their dogs specifically. And so, the woman who's walking the bulldog looks a lot like her bulldog, and the woman who's walking the Afghan looks a lot like her Afghan.
I mean, that's like every human and dog owner on the street anyway,
really
right?
Is. I mean, to be honest, like our dog Belle, she's a Chow Golden Retriever mix, and she is me to a T, to the point that like her hip problems are my hip problems. Like,
you don't shed as much.
I don't shed, not quite as much. Yeah, close, but but yeah, so I really had fun. The other inspiration that brought it about was because the reason it's birds and not dogs, even though I'm very much a dog person, is because yes, dogs over cats, dogs rule. Is because we were living on a farm. We lived on a farm for 4 years in Spokane, and we had birds of every type. We had chickens and ducks and geese for a short time.
Woke us up every morning.
Yeah, guinea fowl. You will get to meet guinea fowl in this book.
You ever considered getting a farm?
Yes.
And having birds? Peacocks can be all right if you get good peacocks. They can be mean too. They can mean right. Do not get guinea fowl.
Yes.
Literal worst.
Yes. We'll share more about that at another time. But I was walking around our farm and I was going, okay, this is why when I say I wrote this book 4 years ago, this is why, because I was very much inspired by
you were living there,
the birds that are on our farm and the things that happen with those birds. So before we moved to the farm, I was unfortunately one of those people who believed that birds didn't have a lot of personality. I'll tell you what, that is so fake.
No.
Birds have so much personality. In fact, they have too much personality. And so I kept walking around thinking it would be really funny to write a series of mysteries where maybe it's the birds solving the mysteries, maybe it's all, an anthropomorphic type thing, or what if after watching 101 Dalmatians, it's women who are like their birds.
Well, there were birds that would go missing.
It's very inspired by things
there's
that
a
happen
lot
on the
of
farm.
inspiration.
There's a lot of, as you read it, if you're like, I wonder if that really happened to them. Yes,
probably.
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of me. The other thing I wanted to share that's in the book. So like I mentioned, Beatrice is one of my favorite characters. She's a costume designer. She's greatly inspired by me and my mother-in-law, who is a costume designer. And so she is currently working on the local community theater is putting in this small town. It's a small town of maybe 2,000. And that's where I grew up, was Buena Vista, Colorado. Woot. And I grew up doing community theater there. And one of the ones that we did was Wizard of Oz. And so this community theater in this book is putting on a production of Wizard of Oz, but it's a Wizard of Oz like you've never seen it before, because it is steampunk inspired, which is a new idea that had just hit in the 90s. And so I'm bringing it to Paca Springs probably a little bit early. But so I wanted to share with you guys just a picture of, whoops. This is, let's see, can you get it closer? It's hard for me to reach it. So that is me as Glinda in the pink. So you can see that one, if you can see over here. And yep, that's me with the wizard.
Elvis Wizard.
Who, yep, he was Elvis. And he also he was a ventriloquist, a local ventriloquist. So he did the wizard as, the big head that talks. It was a ventriloquist dummy. And it was definitely a Wizard of Oz like you've never seen before. So I got to plug in a lot of that into the book, and I had so much fun with it. So yeah. So we both have been writing a lot of ourselves into our books lately, and just allowing that to be in there, having fun with it, letting those D&D references come through, and our geek references, not just D&D, but other RPG references and Zelda and things like that, right? Those all come into our fiction. So, and that all comes with writing cozy.
Right. So why do we write cozy?
Right? Exactly. Yeah. Because cozy mystery has been around for a while, right? Everybody is familiar with the term cozy mystery. If you read mysteries at all, you've heard, well, is it cozy, right? And that really comes from the golden age of mystery. So Agatha Christie, G.K. Chesterton, Dorothy L. Sayers, the Detection Club, all of that. The books they were writing, the Manor House Mysteries and things like that, those were considered cozy mysteries because at the same time, which is mind-boggling to me historically, that at the same time in America, authors were also writing hard-boiled and noir fiction, which is so dark and so much more, grimy and gory and focuses on the darker side of humanity, whereas the other ones don't.
Grim dark versus
it's grim dark versus noble bright
at the same time
in mystery, right? And so we see a lot of that. So when I tell people, oh, this is a cozy mystery, they know immediately what I'm talking about. But what about you bringing cozy fantasy?
So cozy fantasy is a new term for what has been around for a while. Cozy fantasy has always existed. I mean, Terry Pratchett's the best example of that, right?
True.
Is that
That's true.
He does write cozy. Yeah, there's murder, there's mayhem, blah blah blah, but it's not that graphic. It's not about that. It's about the story of the world, Discworld, and it's cozy and slice of life and all that jazz. And that's what cozy is.
You've been described as cozy before.
I've been described as cozy because it's laid back and comfortable, and maybe there's not a lot of blood, even if there's a lot of dark themes that can still occur. But the rise of cozy has just started in the last few years, as seen via first with Legends and Lattes, and so we've had several since then. But it started. But why? Why did cozy happen? And I've done a lot of study trying to figure that out, and it's because of COVID. That COVID hit, and immediately readers went looking for. They didn't want new from the bookstores, so they sought indie out, and they wanted to read old, and they were going back to Terry Pratchett and reading the old classics. That's what they wanted, and so there's been a boom for both of those. As the writers immediately who were in the middle of COVID were writing some darker fiction. And then immediately, once it kind of started settling down, I think there were a lot of writers who were like, I kind of like just sitting at home and drinking coffee. What if I read a book about this? So they wrote cozy, and that just happened. And it's not that Legends and Lattes caused it to happen.
No.
Legend and Lattes was a causality from the need for it to occur.
Yes, because I would say Onward was even before that. And that was the first introduction.
It
became part of the subconscious mind.
Right.
Because all of us saw that.
What we needed. Like Luca. Luca came out at the same time too.
And
it was just what we needed was that comfort. And so from the moment when Legends and Lattes came out and I read it, I thought I could do this. But nothing really hit.
Yeah, no story ideas.
No stories. Right. I had a few that I play with. I've written a few first chapters of one that I may revisit later. But this one was the story where it happened, and it was the perfect storm of this is the moment this book has to be written.
Right,
so I wrote it.
Yeah. Because even though your other books have been described as cozy, I wouldn't call them cozy. I would say they're comforting.
I call them comforting.
Yeah, because they're comfort.
Classic
reads.
Comfort.
Yeah. I mean, that's a whole nother discussion of what's the difference between cozy versus comfort. And because there kind of is a difference, but there also isn't. I don't know. It's one of those,
I can do a whole discussion about cycles and changes in society. But
one of the other things that really drew us to writing cozy, I think, is because, again, our kids, we're parents. We've got 2 young kids. And so I think that is also why we have seen a rise in cozy in readership as well, is because there's more and more parents like us. We're the ones taking them to the cons. We're the ones, introducing them to geek culture and saying being a geek is awesome, right? And encouraging that in our kids. But some of the themes in some of the books, even Harry Potter gets dark after the 4th book. And
it doesn't have to be dark all the time, even for
dark.
YA. It's like you don't have to read Lord of the Flies and there's other things you can read too, and that we want to provide those things.
Exactly.
So we have options, and so we have our books showing up in classrooms because they're something you could hand to a kid and go, you're going to enjoy this and you'll be fine.
Right. And we want to encourage the next wave of readers because
and
they're
writers.
Already there. And that's what I mean. Sorry. Yes. Readers and writers. Yeah. They're starting already, right? We've got our kids writing books already because of course they have 2 author parents. So they want to do what we do, which is awesome. So, so when can we expect to see Queen Creatures?
So the Road to Quaint Creatures release is that 1 week from today, we're going to do the cover reveal.
Yep. So, spoiler alert, our next guest on our late night book chat will be Andrew D Meredith with Quaint Creatures. And he'll
just be just talking about Quaint Creatures.
And the cover reveal.
And the cover reveal, we're going to do some, we got to film some videos this week of showing how the cover was made. I painted and then worked the cover into being after painting.
Yeah.
A week painting.
So he's done it all himself. It looks amazing. Yeah. It's so trying to be different than like his other covers, right? You can't have a cover like that and then open it and find a cozy fantasy inside. It's got to be a very different cover because we're reaching it. It's a maybe a different audience. Might be the same audience though. Yeah, if you want a break in your grim dark, we'll see.
Yeah. In fact, my books have been called breaks from the dark
there
stuff.
There you go.
So we're going to do cover reveal, talk about the art and the process of that, show off probably the original pieces as well, which are kind of been cut up a little bit, but I can still show those. And we'll do that. And then at the same time, we'll be launching the pre-order.
Yes.
The exact same time. So come next week, same cozy time, same cozy channel for the pre-release, so you can get in on the release.
We'll be doing a special with that, so we'll reveal that next time.
Okay, we're not even gonna tell you when the date is. It's soon.
Come back to find out.
Soon, but you got to come back to find out when.
Yes, yeah. So we'll be announcing the pre-release and pre-orders and pre-order dates next Monday. We'll talk about the cover. We'll talk a little bit about the audiobook too. He's been recording the audiobook. It sounds amazing.
Just finished it today.
Yes. His voices, it's like listening to a play. He's managed to do some really fun things with the audio with this one because of the character types and things. It's been really fun to listen to. So,
and how about you?
So then mine will probably be about 2 weeks after his is what it's looking like. We're trying to balance it out because we're both publishing at the same time. So we have to kind of balance it out. Because like I said, he just finished his audiobook. So I'll start recording my audiobook this week. I just got the book back from my editor. Thank you, Corin. And so I'll be recording that this week. And then I'll be about 2 weeks off from his release date. So we'll have more information for you about that next week. And then the week after that, we will have our first guest on, and I'm so excited, but you know what? We're going to hold off on that.
I'll tell you that next week.
We'll tell you next week. So, but right now we still have...
But while I have you here, what else are you working on? What do you have coming?
Oh, like for this year?
Yeah.
So Goose and Penny, Slings and Sparrows will release sometime in the next 2 months. And then I'm working on book 2 in the Sam Shovel series, which is the Christmas one, because I want to make sure that I definitely get a sequel out to that one this year because it was so much fun. And then I will start work on book 4, much anticipated, much requested, book 4 in the Spokane Clock Tower Mysteries. So I'm very excited to come back to those characters and see what they've been up to while I've been gone and find out what they're doing in August of 1901. So no, July. It's July of 1901 is the next one.
Yeah.
So,
and then I've got book 4 of the Collation Saga is going to be coming out this summer. It is in alpha right now, and it's going to go to beta for a couple months. And there will also be a complete re-release of all of the series new covers for all of them, with the release of that 4th book, if not in kind of a spaced out release. I'm working on the 3rd book for Needle and Leaf, of which there's going to be 4. So that's the announcement right now. There will be 4. But I'm writing number 3, a ways into that. And I might write a couple more cozies in the same world as Quaint Creatures.
Real quick, I did want to hit on that. You said that it's a standalone.
It is a standalone. Every book in they're called Sideways Tales because they take place in the Sideways, which you'll learn about in the book. We'll talk about that next week. But every single one of them is a standalone, so they're not in a series. They're just under the same umbrella.
Like Discworld, where you can pick up any Terry Pratchett novel, it's okay. You don't have to have read the previous one.
Every character,
but there will be repeat characters,
absolutely cameos.
So they'll all be tied in together.
Yes, so my desire for the book is that every single book you read in the Sideways will make you want 5 more books.
Right. So non-related like, to the one I want a story about those characters, right? Depending on how it ends in this book, right? Yes. You'll be like, I want to read that book, right?
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes. Yeah, it's gonna be so much fun.
It is.
I'm so excited.
I'm very excited. It's a big year. All right.
Questions? So yes. So with our remaining 10 minutes, I want to hop on and see if we've got any questions in the chat.
All right.
You guys have been having a great time over here. Thank you so much again for being a part of our live studio audience. So, all right.
Oops, I didn't mean to click on it.
Why did you click on that one?
I didn't click on it. It's
Oh,
a new computer. We're learning how to use this touchpad.
Okay. Yeah. So shout out to my parents who are apparently watching Star Wars.
I know this was answered a little bit in the chat, but Skeet to Books wanted to know when Maids in a Row was coming out in audiobook. It is out.
It is out. Maids in a Row is out in audiobook. It's available. So all 3 of the Spokane Clock Tower mysteries are available in audiobook, read by Rebecca Cook, who will be one of our guests later this year. And so, so they are all available. They should be out there.
They should be. So if you can, while we're answering the rest of the questions, can you tell us where you listen?
Yes.
We'll just double check that it is available through there.
Because it's on Spotify, it's on Libro.fm,
Amazon.
it's on Amazon.
If it's not through your library, you just need to ask them for it.
Yes.
But the audiobook for Maids in a Row, for all of our books, are all out.
Are all out.
We release them at the same time that they get released, almost for every single book. Yes. So if you want to let us know where it is that you like to listen from, we'll double check right now and make sure it's there, because you should get it.
Yeah, because the audiobook, Rebecca Cook does an incredible job reading the audiobook. So,
all right, Trisha.
Oh, it actually looks like, Tori actually answered the question.
She did.
Too. Yes. Yeah. Trisha, if you were to write an epic fantasy novel, what kind of story would you tell? So, one of the fun things about the Sideways right now is we're talking about it being one of the first times that we co-author something, meaning, because I cannot co-write a book with somebody. My brain, the way I write my books, I weave. So there's no way I could write a book with somebody.
It would not be well for our marriage.
No, and that too. Even that too. But we've talked about, we built this world together, the Sideways. So what if, like, I wrote a book that was in the Sideways, so in his world, in our world, because we've world built it together.
It's really fun.
So I think that might be my first foray. I consider Sam Shovel my very first foray into cozy fantasy. It's a Christmas cozy fantasy. So those people who are not familiar with fantasy, or people
who poo-poo fantasy, will read that.
We'll read that.
It's Christmas, right?
So
it's not fantasy.
Okay, right?
It's okay. It's kind of funny.
But it has gnomes and trolls and dwarves and elves, and it's got everything. It's got it all.
Everything but a dragon so far.
It's got magic. So. So that's not epic fantasy. I would have to think about it, Tori. I'll get back to you. I'll brainstorm. Yeah.
Andrew, if you were to write a historical murder mystery, what time period would you choose, and who would your main character be? My main characters would be Luther Regan in a tricorn era magic story. Meaning I have ideas and I'm working on them. So it'd be an Age of Sail, 1700s Europe type setting.
Would it be historical though, or would it be like a fantasy mystery?
Oh, okay. I see.
Yes.
I guess I'm assuming magic. All right. So if I was writing a historical murder mystery, 1990s? No.
Yeah.
If I was to write one, I would go back a ways. I could see writing one in. Oh, I'd probably want to challenge myself though. I'd probably challenge myself with something like, I don't know, like Conquistador Spain or something weird like that.
Okay.
Where I would have to actually do a little bit of research into cultures.
Maybe some travel research.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I could see doing that. But I could also see myself doing like an Oregon Trail murder mystery, like on the Oregon Trail.
Yeah.
And because you could spread that out.
He died of dysentery.
And, he dies of dysentery.
Yeah.
And my main character would die every single book with the mystery unsolved because they get dysentery.
Right.
There you go. That's what I would do. I thought about that, and I would like to. Maybe we will. That would be so awesome for us to have a musical act or a stand-up.
So for those who don't
know, I bet we could get
JCM
JCM to actually record a stand-up piece.
That's true. Those of you who don't know, we actually do both have musical theater backgrounds. So we both do sing and dance and act. We are triple threats. I don't really play an instrument. You play an instrument. You play a couple different instruments. My other side project that I'm working on right now is getting a dancing and theater program going here in our hometown in Colorado Springs.
So if anybody's watching this and says, I would like to do a stand-up piece, you totally can.
Yes,
let's keep it clean so we don't get demonetized once we're monetized. We're gonna make so much money at this, right? But if you want to write a comedy piece, especially if you can tie it into the fact that you're a nerd
and a bookish
nerd,
a book nerd,
tell us,
yes.
and you can record it and we'll review it.
Weird Al type parody.
Keep it short. Yeah, for music, yeah, you could do what is it called? What's it called if you sing at like a
karaoke?
No, if you go to like a con and you dress as a Klingon, not busking. Anyway, I can't think of the word.
Oh, okay.
There's a word for writing. Filking is what it's called.
Okay.
If you want to write a filk song, great. Record it. Yes. You want to do a comedy set? I think they're usually like 90 seconds, 3 minutes, maybe max. Record it and maybe we'll stick it in at the end of a show.
Maybe we will.
Why not? Right?
Yeah.
Why not?
Send us your videos.
Yeah. What's the worst that could happen?
That'd be awesome.
That would be so cool.
I mean, my favorite Scrubs episode is the musical one.
Oh yeah.
It's yeah. So all right.
Okay, we're almost there.
We're almost out of time. Okay. Do you have one more question?
On Hoopla, I don't know. Escape the books. Escape the books. Yeah. All right. So
there we go.
So you're reading on Hoopla. Check and see.
Available.
It might be on Hoopla sometimes. It depends on what your library gets their books through. So Hoopla is a library system. So is Libby. Yeah. So if your local library does Hoopla or Libby, you can contact your library to ask them to add it to it. Yes. So they don't often do it naturally. Yeah. It's almost always by request. Hoopla can be more random. They'll just pick things and throw them up, especially for indie. Libby can be a little bit more strict. It seems like it's very controlled by each library system.
Yeah. It depends on how your library works, how you would request a book, but our books are available to libraries. So we highly recommend getting them that way. And it does still support us as authors. It's actually very helpful to have our books in the library system, because then people will walk up to us all the time and be like, I checked it out from the library and then I bought your book, or I've been gobbling up your books. Thank you for making them available for the library because I can't afford books right now, right? That kind of thing. So we love supporting our local libraries.
So ask your local library who you have your Hoopla card through to add it, and they should add it to that. If not, it is available on some other everywhere. Everywhere audiobooks are bought from.
I think we answered you, Quinn, already, but yes, absolutely. So not co-writing in the sense that we could write it together. Like maybe if we did alternate POVs, but even then, I don't know.
I will say regarding co-writing and why we work together so well is that she writes mystery and I write fantasy, but she absolutely gets peanut butter in my chocolate and I get chocolate in her peanut butter.
Yes.
Because we're constantly talking back and forth on how to work through the plot things and did this work and
world building.
And we read the books together on, like, I read How to Write a Mystery Book, so that not for myself too, because I'll fold them into my stories, but also so that I can speak to when I'm reading through and realizing where she's at in the arc, that has she dropped her red herrings at the right time and that sort of thing. Exactly. So we can talk to that. Yeah. And even if I ask a dumb question, my dumb question can be an inspiration for her to answer that question, to make sure that because if I ask the dumb question, someone else is going to ask it too. And that way it gets answered. And the same thing where she'll call me out if my magic system is totally not working. That didn't make sense. You just said that other thing 2 chapters ago. I'm like, well, yeah, I knew. I thought maybe you'd go by you, but and I go and I gotta fix it. So that's a huge boon for us, is because we're helping each other write each other's books as we go.
Yeah. So
so we do kind of co-write all of our books in a sense. Not in the sense that like in 20, 40 years when I die, she's not going to write my books for me. No. She doesn't have my voice. No. Quinn, you'll have to do it, Quinn.
I don't have your world building. Yeah. Like it's just his world building. It's all in his head.
We have very different voices.
And it's all in his head. I am a research-oriented person, so
I write it down.
I write everything.
I write it down.
Well, I made him make a story Bible for Quaint Creatures. So
for Quinn, so we already got that worked on, Quinn. Whereas Quinn made my world Bible for
Collation. Yeah. By the way, guys, if you're looking for the wiki for Collation Saga, it does exist. So go look for it. Yep. And there will be one where it'll be very easy. We'll be able to get one up for Quaint Creatures and that whole world. So, all right. So thank you everybody for joining us.
Yes. As Tori points out, please do like and subscribe and click that notification bell.
That's right.
Because it does help the algorithm. Yeah, and we are going to be back next week.
Yes. So next week, same bat time, same bat channel. We'll be here at 9 p.m. So every Monday night, 9 p.m. Mountain Time, 11 p.m. Eastern. I don't know what time that is in New Zealand or Wales, but we might end up with some guests who are from there who we might end
It's
up doing
4 a.m. in UK. I know that. I had to look that up.
That's right. Yeah. So we might do some pre-recorded videos,
Yep.
and then we'll just pop on and let you know, hey, so we weren't able to catch up with this person.
And likely if we ever do a pre-record, we'll be in the chat.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
So thank you so much for joining us tonight and being our live studio audience for our pilot of late night book chat. And we hope we'll see you next time.
Yes. Have a great night.